For the Geek Podcast on this Monday evening. With me, as always, we have my co-hosts, Peter Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And Jonjo Cosgrove.
Good evening, all.
And our special guest this eve, we have Lawrence Connolly.
Hello.
So, Lawrence, thank you for joining us. First question, or first couple of questions I ask everybody. Who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
Well, I'm Lawrence C. Connolly, as you said, and I write science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and I write it for magazines, books, the screen, and the stage. So I try to cover all the bases. And I've been at it since the 1980s, got started writing for the science fiction magazines. So I was right there when horror started to pop. And I was right there when the magazine Rod Serling's Twilight Zone opened up. And when one of the science fiction magazines bounced a science fiction story, I thought it was science fiction, they bounced it because they thought it was too horrifying. I sent it to Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, and Ted Klein, the editor there, took it. And so I started selling to Twilight Zone at that point. And shortly thereafter, Year's Best Horror began picking up those Twilight Zone stories. And shortly after that, I started getting calls from LA, people wanting to option the stories. And so I figured, maybe this is what I'm going to do. Maybe this will be a career. But I've been doing it ever since. And I just have had a blast doing it. As we were talking before we started recording, I enjoy the community. I enjoy the community of writers and readers and traveling around the world and going to the conventions and getting to know people like us. And so that's what I've been up to. Hope that answers the question.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
What first drew you to science fiction? I mean, like I remember the 80s quite well with a Shudder, and there was this thing drought, at least on television. I think in the literary side of things, it was much more prolific there, but generally in the wider community, there was felt very little science fiction, fantasy, horror. So what drew you to the genre?
Yes. Here's an interesting way to go with that. When I was really young, my school was selling magazines as a fundraiser. And one of the magazines was the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction.
Oh.
And so now we're way back in the early days now. We're way back in 1966. And so I decided I've got to sell at least one of these magazines. I'm not going door to door and selling them. I'll buy one. And so it was $5, which was a considerable amount of money for a kid back then. But I took a year's subscription to the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. And the first story I read in that issue was by a guy named Bob Lehman. Now, he's not exactly a household name, but he was quite a fixture in fantasy and science fiction. And it was called Bait, and it knocked me out. It had this great twist ending. It was about aliens, had a great twist ending. And I thought, well, this is kind of what I want to do, but I didn't do it. I was a kid. I still had to grow up. So fast forward 10 years later, I once again subscribed to that magazine because I remember, my fond experience when I was young. And so I subscribed again. And by some strange coincidence, the first story in the first issue of that subscription was again by Bob Lehman. Now, you can't write this stuff. You can't make this stuff up, because here's the truth behind it. That also happens to be his second story for the magazine.
Oh,
a
wow.
10-year hiatus. We both had 10-year hiatuses. It was almost as if we were on the same wavelength, right? And it was a knockout story called Industrial Complex. And it was about this alien that inhabits this guy's mind. It was brilliant. I said, well, this is the guy I want to read. I want to read everything this guy writes. And so it just so happens, maybe because I had a subscription to the magazine again, he starts writing for the magazine. So he starts having stories coming out regularly in the magazine. Now, this is one more coincidence that, again, you see all these coincidences. I can't be making this up. In his story window, when I'm reading the story window, the introduction tells me that he lives within 5 miles from my house.
Oh, wow.
Believe that? And so I got to meet him. I went over. I introduced myself. We became great friends for about the last 10 or 15 years of his life. And in a way, he was one of the mentors that really raised me into the realm of science fiction and got me writing science fiction. Now, there were others. Joe Haldeman was very instrumental, Arthur C. Clarke. But I think that this series of coincidences that led to Bob Lehman becoming my mentor is really what I would point to say, yep, that's what did it. And the interesting thing about all of this is that there must be something in the water out here. This is I'm living in Western Pennsylvania right now, and there's a lot of science fiction writers out here. And for a while, Bob was one of them. He only wrote for fantasy and science fiction. He had one story in another anthology at one point. He had an anthology. He had a story in Harlan Ellison's Last Dangerous Visions, which didn't come out, and so he withdrew the story and published it in an anthology by Charles Grant. But he's very inside baseball. He's only known to a few, but those who know him really respect him. Great writer. That's my story.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something to be said about that, the human element that the writers bring. I mean, I read Mark Shadbourne's The Age of Misrule trilogy back in the early 2000s, and I thought, this is a really good writer. Really enjoyed it. And then 10 years later, I was at the HDIT Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Writing Convention, and he was there giving a panel about the business of writing. I thought, oh, I like writing. Never really considered it as a business career, but I'll go into along to it. And that panel, like that workshop by Mark Shadbourne, is what kickstarted me into becoming a full-time freelance writer and journalist.
Yeah.
And since then we met up, we have beers together every time in London. But kind of like I said, that human element, I'm all for, like, internet is great. I mean, we can communicate around people around the world instantaneously. It's brilliant. But kind of the underlying human element of making connections and sharing our passion, our interest in science fiction, that's what underpins everything.
That's it. Yeah, it's a great community. We were talking before the mics went live, or before we went live. It's just it's a community that's around the world. People separated by distance, but not by ideology. It's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you talk about, you written a forward for Benjamin Kurt Unward's new latest, debut novel, and that came out because you knew his father.
That's right. I met Simon Kurt Unsworth at World Fantasy when it was in Calgary, and that year he was nominated for the World Fantasy Convention, or the World Fantasy Award. Certainly one of the most prestigious awards in this business, and it was his first published story. It was Church in the Island, and he's nominated, and we both had stories in the same anthology, and it was a different story than the one it was. Let me see if I remember this right. The anthology that we were both in was an anthology from Ash Tree Press. They were a Canadian publisher, and Simon had published Church on the Island in another one of their anthologies. And so we had a book launch there for the anthology that we were in together, and that's when I got to meet Simon. And he read a story on the first day of the con, which was called, I'm going to blank on the title of the story, An Afternoon with Danny, I think it was. And it's just this, it's a gut-wrenching story about a parent's worst fears. And you could see in that story, and the worst fear, of course, losing a child. And you could see that story was really based on his love for his son. And so that's how I got to know Ben Unsworth, through his father's fiction and through the things that Simon told me about over the years about his very talented son. And so when I finally got to meet Ben, and I've never met Ben in person, I've only met him over the internet, I was delighted that this relationship that I found in Calgary in 2008 or thereabouts was being carried on through another generation. And so that's pretty exciting. Yes, the foreword that I wrote is in the book Into Rack and Ruin.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
it is Ben Unsworth's first book. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, he's a really good author as well. He just has absolute passion for writing that shines through in everything he does. I mean, one thing. I mean, you obviously travel to the UK for conventions. You do conventions over in America. Given you've experienced this kind of convention both sides of the Atlantic, what do you see in the differences between the two communities?
Between the two, I think the biggest difference that I've noticed is that if you travel 100 miles in the States, you're in the same place.
That's so true.
If I travel 100 miles in the UK, I'm in a different place.
Different accents, like different culture.
I'm in a whole different place, and I love that. I love that about the UK. And Matt, you were talking about Ireland earlier, and I have been to Ireland as well. And I know the same thing is true there, except it's maybe 10 miles.
Yeah, it's so true. Different. And it's just mad how like the accents can switch literally within like a 10-mile radius. Yeah,
that's it. Yes. But other than that, I just think there's so much kinship, so much kindred spirit between us that whether I'm traveling 100 miles and realizing I'm still in the same place, or going 100 miles and finding I'm in a new place, it's really we all have common ground when we get there. Here's an interesting story, and it just shows what I think of. It's no big deal. I can travel 100 miles. I can go from here to New York City, and I'm pretty much in the same place. I was over in Manchester a few years back for the UK premiere of the film Nightmare Cinema that I co-wrote. And Mick Garris of Showtime's Masters of Horror was the producer of that. And it's an anthology film, and with 5 different directors directing 5 different segments, and 5 different authors writing 5 different segments. So David Slade and I collaborated on the segment titled This Way to Egress. Well, anyhow, I'm over there, and David is also over in the UK, but he's in London. So he's in London, I'm in Manchester. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if David just came up to Manchester and watched the movie with me, introduced the movie with me. And so I called him up, and he was working on Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Ooh. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was editing Black Mirror Bandersnatch at the time, and I said, "Hey, David, why don't you hop on a train? Come on up here, just a couple of hours. We'll introduce the movie." He said, "I really can't. I'm editing. I'm editing Bandersnatch." And of course, I'm thinking, "Well, you're editing a television episode. Come on." Well, of course, Bandersnatch. Yeah. I don't know how anybody could edit that without losing one's mind, right? Yeah. Because it's all these threads.
Yeah.
And so I really understand, but he pretty much said that not only was it too far, it didn't seem far to me, but too far because I was in the UK, but it was no way he could tear himself away from Bandersnatch. So, but I got to introduce the film on my own, so it was okay.
I suppose, like in America, the distances, it's like, in the UK, it is. London for me would be too far away. I go down there now and again, but it's a trek. Whereas when I was in America, we drove from LA to like to Vegas, and that took us like what 4 hours or something. I can't remember how far it was. Just like, and that, completely different thing. We just sort of, when you're driving around America, it's just obviously a massive country. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. and just just going on about Bandersnatch, you can't watch it anymore. It's been completely removed from Netflix.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Has it?
Yeah. So what happened was, this is where my contribution comes in, and I just talk about the real boring stuff. But basically, Netflix are trying to get away from this choose your own adventure thing, because there was a couple of lawsuits about how they approached it, and someone who owned a copyright to the Choose Your Own Adventure thing had got involved. So basically, they just went, "Yeah, we'll pull the plug on all of it." So I think it was about a couple of weeks after the latest series of Black Mirror come out this year, they then went, "Yep, Bandersnatch is going." And funny enough, one of the episodes that was in the latest series was, in a way, a sequel or a follow-on.
Yeah,
from
it was.
Bandersnatch,
It was.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because it has the
which
same.
was really good.
Yeah, yeah. But that's
Some
that's
of the
mad.
same actors, yes.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah, yeah.
realize they'd canned it off.
Yeah. If you go on in there, that's been taken off. There was also a few other ones, including one of the there was a Choose Your Own Adventure one of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt as well.
Yes.
That's been taken off too. The Choose Your Own of that
Who
one.
sued them? Who was it? Who sued
I can't remember who it was, but there was some
Choose
company.
Your Own Adventure is a brand name, because I remember it being quite prolific in the 80s. Like, kind of like, go to this chapter, continue the story this way, or go to that chapter. So it could well be someone copyrighted the structure, at least the name.
How can you do that? Because they do that. Like, we've had loads of the Fighting Fantasy guys who come on.
Yeah, it's great.
That's Choose Your.
There is some. Yeah, I've got the thing. So so let's see, Choosico, the company founded by R.A. Montgomery to publish the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, filed a lawsuit against Netflix for trademark infringement by using the phrase "Choose Your Own Adventure" in Bandersnatch. Seeking upwards.
How can you?
I know, but
Choose Your Own Adventure is a brand name.
Yeah, seeking upward of $25 million in damages.
That's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, so apparently they reached a settlement, but there was some talk about that they were going to try and do another suit about it. But I think as well, Netflix probably just thought, we don't need. And it's a shame, because Bandersnatch is one of their most creative bits of work they've ever done. When it
comes to stuff, when it comes to phrases and things that sort of are a part of the human zeitgeist, or the sort of that are just common for everybody. I just like having a what's the word? Sorry. Having not a patent. What am I thinking? When you're copyright on it,
right?
This seems insane. There's recently
Fine Brothers. When they tried to trademark the word react.
Yeah, just like stuff like that just makes I just think it's money grabbing. Like recently, there's a big hoo-ha in the sort of tabletop gaming sort of sphere, because they have these things called war boots, which is basically a car boot sale but for toy figures and things like that. So selling Warhammer and fantasy figures and things like that. So you go down and you get a table, and they do one in Element Games of Stockport. They do them all over the country. They're generally called war boots. And this guy from a company called Siege Studios, who do sort of battle reports and painting and stuff, he tried to copyright the word war boot. And then it had a massive backlash. Everybody just went, "You're just trying to money grab here. Why would you do it?" Everybody uses that phrase for this whole thing, and he says, "Oh, I'm just trying to bring it in so the whole community could have like this." Where no, you saw money and thought you could get.
I remember a few years ago, Games Workshop tried to copyright the term "Space Marine."
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes,
now anyone who's read classic science fiction of the 70s and 80s, you're going, hang on.
Well, that's what they're called. They're called Astartes now, aren't they? So they're not called Space Marines really anymore, are they?
But yes, I know.
Astartes.
We're not going off topic quite dramatically here.
Back to our original program.
Yeah, sorry. We do this, Lawrence. Apologies. You get a lot of sort of segues.
I mean,
I love
what's
it.
your approach
from me? Because I'm like,
what's your thoughts on the whole kind of copywriting of terms, especially?
What are my thoughts on copyrights?
Yeah.
Well, I do know this. I have been eager to write an adaptation of Hound of the Baskervilles for the stage.
Oh.
And I have a play going up next month. Actually, it's this month. It's November. I have a play opening this month based on the stories of Edgar Allan Poe. Now, no big deal there. Those have been in public domain for ages.
Yeah.
But I have wanted to write a play based on Hound of the Baskervilles. And I have written in the Sherlock Holmes universe before, but it always had to be sanctioned by the Conan Doyle estate. Well, now, since 2023, everything in the Holmes universe is in public domain. So I can finally do this. And so this is one thing that, as we talk about copyright, I do like the copyright will protect me and could protect my intellectual property and I collaborate with my brother, Christopher Connolly, on work. And it's nice that his IP and our works can be protected, but it sure is frustrating when I see something that I really want to do. There's another thing I want to do. I have this great mystery story that I want to write that's based on one of the poems of Gertrude Stein. And it's not going to be in public domain for another year. Okay, so I have another year to wait, and then I can finally write my. I think if I'm remembering my dates correct, the poem is the different sizes of the six, and it's a very Gertrude Stein poem, and nobody can really explain what it means, but it really does open itself up for a nice mystery story. So basically, I tell you what, it's a double-edged sword. I like that it protects my intellectual property, but I don't like that it inhibits my creativity. But I want somebody else's.
I think that's right. When it's intellectual property, but and I suppose you could argue, but it's when you've got common phrases that everybody use, and then you're kind of saying you can't use that phrase, and it just seems a bit,
frustrating.
Like when TV and films couldn't use the song "Happy Birthday" up till only like a few years ago.
Yeah,
I find it interesting that you chose The Hound of the Baskervilles to adapt as a play. I mean, for starters, a lot of it takes place outside, so which is going to be difficult to kind of replicate on stage. But also, it's one of the few Sherlock Holmes stories that I feel very horror influenced. There's a strong bit of horror through it.
Yes, and I have an idea. I don't want to give anything away, but I've got a plan for keeping it contained. And so we're going to see if that works. I just finished now this Poe play that's opening. We're one of the it is 4 different Poe stories, and the first one is Murders in the Rue Morgue. Ooh. And that was a challenge too, because I wanted that all to take place in one location and in real time without losing any of the elements of the story. Ooh. And it took a bit of doing, but when I finally cracked that nut, it's perfect. I don't want to boast, but I think it's perfect. It looks pretty good to me. We'll find out what the critics say when this opens up. But what I like about writing for the stage is the challenge of finding a way into a work where the narrator moves from time to time and place to place. You can do it in a matter of sentences, right? But on the stage, you really need as much as possible to keep it in real time and in one location if you can. And that I find is the biggest challenge and the biggest joy of writing for the stage, is finding a way to do that. I think I might have it might not work. When I start it, I might find out it doesn't work, but I think there's a way to do Hound of the Baskervilles with a very limited number of locations and not running all around the moors. I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on, Pete.
I was going to say, like, also writing something that occurs in real time is tricky. I mean, I can only think of very few stories that or plays in TV that I've done that. 24, obviously, but also Phone Booth and Nick of Time. But very rarely do people do it because it is so hard to do well.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about, what got me into this and what got me into science fiction was the magazine of fantasy and science fiction and Bob Lehman. And what got me interested in writing for the stage is Sleuth, Anthony Schaefer's Sleuth, which is the masterful real-time, the first act plays out completely in real time. And then the second act, we fast forward. And once again, we play out in real time. That to me is the perfect play. And the Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine film that came out in '72, and hasn't been really available since then. We talk about copyright. I think it was funded. I think the movie version was funded by Squibb or some drug company, and they have no interest in putting this out on Blu-ray. Now, fortunately, somehow people in Spain are able to get around that. There's a Spanish language version, not version, but there's a Spanish Blu-ray of Sleuth. And I got it, and you can put the English track on. Plays like a dream. It's beautiful. That's what got me thinking. Where I really, my goal on the stage is to tell the story in real time, one location, small cast, and if I can pull that off,
that sounds really
I'm very
interesting.
happy.
Yeah.
When you say small cast, how many do you mean? I've seen Dracula done with only 3 actors.
Oh. Yeah, I saw Dracula on the stage when it was on Broadway.
Oh.
Raul Julia.
Oh,
wow.
Vampire. It was great, and it was a very small cast. And of course, the sets were by Edward Gorey, right?
Yeah.
The black and white sets, beautiful sets.
Yeah.
I cannot remember how many were in that cast, but I do recall it was fairly small. Those are the challenges. Of course, things have to be adjusted. The story can't be the word for word, beat for beat translation of the story to the stage, but I try to not take any liberties that are not essential to the adaptation.
Well, Dracula was written like purely through found footage. It was a very early example of found footage story. Everything was like articles, logs, diary entries, what have you. And so you almost that you can't keep the same story completely and change the medium. The medium defines and applies a unique structure to that story. So yeah, I mean, as long as you keep the purity, the intact, the kind of core elements, fine, go with it. But even so, stories do change in their telling. Hamilton Dean's 1924 version of Dracula, which is the first example of Dracula being formed on stage, brought Dracula as a genteel, charismatic person, where before in the stories, he's a monster.
You can tell Pete loves talking about vampires. There's a running joke in our D&D group.
Yeah, well, we said before.
It's been 2 days since Pete's talked about vampires.
I think the one time we said that vampires ain't discussed on the podcast is when Pete has a week off. But do you know what though, Pete? Actually, I know this is another tangent, but you're going to like this. So, near where I live, and this is because obviously you talking about all the vampire stuff, I have to look a little bit up myself. So I am about a couple of minutes away from a place called Purfleet, and Purfleet apparently inspired a lot of what was actually put into Dracula. So there's so apparently I don't know I can't remember what the old name for Purfleet was, but apparently a lot of the area was what inspired Bram Stoker when he was writing Dracula. And recently as well, the way I found that out was because there was an advertisement for someone who was at the there's a hotel in Purfleet, and basically they're doing a little show, and the woman saying, yes, this is where my great grandfather wrote Dracula. And so it was like, oh, okay, I need to look this up. And I thought, I know someone's going to enjoy that if I actually do a little bit of research.
Bram Stoker.
Well, yeah, the great granddaughter.
She's old.
Yeah, but it was like okay. I thought that was quite interesting, and you see something, you go, oh, I've got to look it up now. It was like, oh wow, it actually is. It's like
Purfleet. Did you say Purfleet?
Purfleet. It's yeah. I will send Pete a link later so he can check it out. That's what he's going to do now. He's going to come around my way because he was like, I've got to explore it now.
When you're writing a story, Lawrence, do you know automatically which format it's going to be? That you know there's going to be a play, or do you have kind of was the medium come first, or does the idea for the story come first?
Yeah, do I know when I start what it is going to be? Yes, pretty much. I'll tell you, I've been fortunate that that the plays that I've written have all been commissioned. So the artistic director comes to me and commissions a play, and we agree, and I get paid, and then I write.
Yeah.
So I know it has to be a play at that point. And as far as but an interesting question though. Now that I think of it, I mentioned my brother a moment ago, Christopher Connolly. He came up with this IP a little while ago for this series called The Minutemen. 2 words, The Minutemen, and these are characters that have superpower for 1 minute, and then they're unconscious. So it's kind of like they can do anything. Well, not anything, but they can really take control, but for a very brief period of time. So they have to kind of budget their time carefully, plan carefully. Well, anyhow.
That's one of your recent. The Minutemen Execute and Run.
Yeah, that's the book, and that's the book that just came out from Sazek Science Fiction in October.
Yeah.
And initially, we pitched it. We were in LA together when Nightmare Cinema opened there in 2019, and we did get some interest. We had some producers who were very interested in it. So I went ahead and I wrote the spec script. I didn't have any money for it yet, but I had people that were interested. So I figured, what the heck, I'll try writing the script. And then COVID comes along, and that kind of shuts things down. And then we have the strikes that shuts things down. And then we have the LA fires. Just seemed like it was one thing after another. And so I decided to take that screenplay and adapt it on my own into a novel. And when I did that, getting back to what we were talking about before, a lot of things changed because, again, it's a different form, right? And so the novel became rich and so much richer, I think, because I had already solved a lot of the problems in the screenplay, but I was now able to come at it from a different direction. And novels are much more freeing because you can get inside the characters' heads. You can move more freely between time periods and locations, and you don't have to worry about what a location is going to cost, right? So I was able to really explore the full potential of this story by writing the novel, but only because I had already written the screenplay. But to answer your initial question, each time I knew what I was doing before I started. I knew I was writing that spec script, and I knew I was writing that novel based on the spec script. I haven't yet started writing something and then said, no, this needs to be a play. That hasn't happened, at least not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, when you're writing a story, like on a script or for a novel, your effects budget is infinite. It is the mind. And you don't have to worry about, how am I going to pay for this effect? You don't have to worry about that. But when you can adapt it to another medium, that's when the budget comes in and everything else. And I remember writing this one short story, and I realized I had hit 7,000 words, and it was still going. I could see, no, this is a novel. And I had to kind of just set aside and recently I've been commissioned to write a short story for what's it about? Tales of the Dawn Dragon, the short story collection. But yeah, and you can't really adapt a novel into a short story. It's just you just couldn't weigh too much down.
Yeah, the writer William Tenn. He wrote, let's see, his real name was Philip Klass, and he wrote under the name William Tenn, and he was a contemporary of Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov and all the Golden Age science fiction writers. And he wrote a story called, it'll come to me. I'll remember in a minute. But anyhow, he wrote a story, and it was 50,000 words, as I recall, and he sent it off to John Campbell at Analog, Astounding. And he said, and Campbell said, cut it. I love the story, but cut it in half. Cut this in half. He said, yes, you can do it, and I'll buy it. So he goes, he works on the story, cuts it in half, sends it back. And Campbell says, cut it again in half. What? Are you kidding me? Cut it in half again? Yes, cut it in half. And he does, and it keeps going, and it keeps going like this until he ends up with a story that's somewhere in the order of somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 words. And his wife picks it up and she says, this is impossible. This can't be any good. I mean, you took this thing that was very rich and beautiful, and I'm going to read this, but this is going to be crap, right? So she reads it and she looks at him afterwards. She said, "This is brilliant. I don't know what you cut out. This is brilliant." And boy, I wish I could remember the title of the story. Somebody the Faust. I'll email it to you when I think about it there. Anyhow, it was one of William Tenn's.
What's the name of the author?
Stories.
Sorry, what's the name of the author?
William Tenn, and the story was Bernie the Faust. Okay. If I remember correctly, that is the title of the story, Bernie the Faust. And it begins with a really interesting setup. A guy walks into another guy's office and says something to the effect, will you give me, something like, will you give me $20 for $1? Or maybe it's the other way around. It's a crazy setup, and it builds from there. Bernie the Faust is the name of the story. He cut it and he cut it and he cut it, and it actually became better than it ever had been before. It sold, what I said that it sold to Astounding, I might have gotten that wrong. It might have sold to Playboy, now that I think of it, in which case he made quite a chunk of change.
Yeah. I mean, especially because Playboy did publish some really good stuff, especially back in the day.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, also that first line is the killer. Of all the kind of lines in the story, that first line is the one that authors, writers put the most time and effort into, because that's what you grab a reader with. I mean, William Gibson's "The Sky Was Turned to to a channel, to a dead channel," or was that effect? And so what's your approach when you kind of polishing? Do you have a kind of when you're developing a story? Do you have kind of multiple revisions, or do you kind of edit on the go?
I do go through multiple revisions, and here's how I like to think about it. The novel and the movie, the agony and the ecstasy, they're about Michelangelo, right? And there's this scene, I think it's in both, but it's definitely in the movie, when Michelangelo goes, this big chunk of marble has just been delivered from the quarry. And it's a big shapeless block of marble, and he goes up to it and he leans against it and he says, "Moses is in here. All I have to do is cut away everything that isn't Moses, and I will set him free, and I will have a work of art." And I often think about that as I'm writing, but there is one big difference between the writer and the sculptor, right? And that is that the sculptor requires someone to go to the quarry and dig out the marble and deliver it to town so that the sculptor can work with it. But in writing, we create the marble. We have to create that block, and that block that we create the block that we create in the first draft, it's going to be like that block of marble. There's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't belong, that doesn't really go. We think it's important, but the reader is not going to sit through it. And so what we have to do is we have to cut away everything that isn't the story until we have that story. And then that's the one that that the wife will pick up and say, "This is brilliant." Right?
Wow, so, I love that analogy. That is amazing.
Yeah, there's a popular saying the first million words of any writer is crap, but you have to write those first million words just to kind of get them out of our system. It's as muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets.
That's right. That was Theodore Sturgeon, wasn't it? The science fiction writer Theodore Sturgeon.
Yeah.
Sturgeon's law. 90% of everything is crap, and only 10% is the good stuff. And so we have a choice. We can spend our lives being that 90% and writing that 90%, or we can push ourselves and have the things we create distilled down into that 10% that is gold. And this is why I've always I know that there are people that do great work self-publishing, and I don't want to disparage self-published writers at all, because some of them are brilliant, they're having great careers. But for me, anyhow, I need to have a gatekeeper. I need to have somebody that tells me, yeah, this is going to work, or no, nobody's going to sit through this. You might love it yourself, your friends might love it, but you're not going to sell it. It's not going to work. And so for me personally, it's always been, if the gatekeepers, if the editor isn't going to pay me for it, if the producer or the artistic director isn't going to pay me for it, then I need to write it again. I need to go back and find the way that's going to impress him or her, so that it can get in front of, so that it can find its audience. So that's always worked for me. And it's probably one of the reasons why self-publishing doesn't work for me, is that I've always been a very insular writer. When I create, I just create totally alone. I don't like to collaborate. And this is why working with my brother is great, because my brother will throw out an idea. He'll show me some sketches. He'll say, look at these characters. This is what these characters are about. And which is what he did with Minutemen. And I said, okay, let me go work. And then I, go off for half a year and work. And he just leaves me alone. He knows that I'll come up with something. And so that's the way I like to work. Probably if I were more of a workshop guy, I could go the self-publishing route.
Yeah, there's something to be said though about kind of that, like something that's created instantly, where it has a purity of vision because it just comes from one person and is not kind of diluted by the influence of others.
Yeah, that's the way I like to work. And the fun thing is, when I'm writing a story or a novel, I am in complete control until the story is published. And then once it's published, I have no control. And the reader is going to pick it up and read it. And I might think I've described something absolutely flawlessly so that the reader could never picture anything else. But no reader is ever going to picture exactly what I saw in my head when I wrote this thing. But film writing and stage writing, those are different. Those are collaborative. And so there was in Nightmare Cinema, there was this scene in which the actor Elizabeth Razor from HBO's The Haunting of Hill House, she had this scene that was pretty much all just her listening to people talking on the other side of a translucent glass door. She could see their shadows and she could hear their voices, but she couldn't see them, and she couldn't interact with them, and she couldn't interrupt them. She could only listen. And what she did with her facial expressions, and what the director did, David Slade was the director, what the director did with the camera angles, and what the score did with the electronic score of that scene, were things that I never could have envisioned. And this is the fun thing about writing for the stage or writing for the screen, is it is so collaborative, and I can see someone else's vision taking shape as the movie is being made or as the play is being rehearsed. And that's a big difference between writing a novel, where I only ever see my picture that I create, and then I relinquish that to the readers and just hope that they come up with something that is as rich as I was imagining when I wrote it. So we were talking earlier about the differences between the forms, and I think that is one of the big differences. So I can't be too isolated when a film is being shot or when a stage play is being rehearsed, but I can be absolutely off to myself when I'm writing a novel or a story.
Yeah, and also you have to kind of like write at the behest of your editors and publishers and agents, where kind of, we want this novel, so you have to write the novel, meet the deadlines, hopefully, and kind of it has to match their expectations.
Yes, it does. It's a lot of pressure, but it's fun pressure. And that's why I don't like showing it to people, because I tell people a lot that you can only experience something for the first time once. And if I am sharing my pages as I'm writing them, then I'm going to dilute the surprises that I want to spring on the readers when the book is published. And this is the same reason, I wonder if you guys are the same. This is the same reason why I refuse to watch trailers or read reviews before I go into a movie.
Yeah.
I want to go into a movie absolutely cold.
I don't like reading reviews before watching something. It's like prime example, the new Witcher series is out, and everybody's sort of kind of banging on about Hemsworth. What's his first name?
Liam
Hemsworth.
Yeah, because obviously Henry Cavill, the great Henry Cavill, isn't it anymore. So people are just throwing it out already before they've given him a chance. And I don't like doing it. I like to watch something and then make my own opinion up before sort of kind of reading it. And I feel like if I read those things, it taints it slightly. So I get that completely. Don't mind watching trailers as long as it doesn't give away too much. But it's you find in trailers these days,
trailers.
Give everything away.
I like trailers that are a tease. I like it that if they give you an idea of what is coming, give you an idea of the feel, but not actually telling you the story.
There's some really smart trailers out there where they do world building. They don't have any actual content from the film. They just use to kind of introduce the world, set expectations, and kind of act almost as a prologue to the actual film or TV series.
There is one. There is one trailer actually. It's for a film that I don't think is out yet. I think it's still a couple of weeks away. I've seen it in the cinema a few times, and I don't think it really gives anything away. So it's for an upcoming horror film called Keeper, and it's I'll tell you what, you've got to watch the trailer to really understand it. But it's like it almost like plays in two parts. So it's like idyllic countryside setting, and then you just got this woman's voiceover. She goes, "Who is this man that I'm sharing my life with? Can I trust him?" Or it's like some like quite quick cuts and things, and all of a sudden it goes all mellow again, and it's the same shot, but then it's from the man's perspective. He goes, "Who's this woman I'm with? Can I trust it?" Like, all this, and it's like I don't have a clue what's going on, but that's really hooked me. I really want to watch it, because I don't know what's going on. I want to see.
It's weird that you like this isn't going to be a segue. Sorry, segue incoming, but it's sort of kind of segue. But I watched the House of Dynamite recently on Netflix, and it's weird because it's basically about it's basically a intercontinental ballistic missile's gone off, and it's going to hit Chicago. And it's basically from different points of view, but it's basically the same conversation throughout the entire film. And they have these things where they say the same things. It's just they're in different rooms or in their different place. And I thought that was really neat.
That's very Rashomon.
Yeah, I thought that was quite cool because it is like line for line the same thing they're doing, and you hear them saying it within the same sort of like, so some of them will be on like a Zoom call, like we're on a Zoom call, and then there'll be ones who are sort of kind of in person, and then it'll go to their point of view when they're in the room, and the Zoom call is on the other side, but there's other things going on, and I thought it was quite cool. It doesn't have a oh my god this thing happened. It just sort of cuts off at the end, which I thought was really good. But it was just, I thought it was a really good angle just to have that story told from everybody who was within that call effectively.
Yeah, have any of you guys seen the film Weapons?
No,
no, but I'm that's top of my list because I keep hearing that I need to go in knowing nothing.
I went into it knowing nothing.
So maybe I better watch it tonight.
Yeah. I won't say anything because obviously if you guys not see it, but all I'll say is that going with as little information as possible, and just honestly, the structure of the film is kind of like that. There is like some bits like you almost see like the same scene again. There's a few bits that sort of like interchange, but it depends on who the character is on focus. But it's a great film, and it's a example of horror that is able to almost like play with your mind, because you think, oh, I know what's going on. Then like you get to the next scene, you're like, no, I've got no idea now. It's completely changed. But then I think horror's been good this year. I think horror's been fantastic this year.
Has horror made a resurgence, Lawrence, do you think?
Well, when I was getting started and I was writing horror for Twilight Zone, it was a boom.
Yeah.
Anybody who had anything in the horror genre was selling it. If it was halfway competent, it was selling. Yeah. And then the genre became oversaturated. So much so that somewhere around 1986 or so, on the cover of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, there was the headline or the title of an essay titled "Horror is Dead" by Harlan Ellison. And he basically, rang the bell on it. He said, "Look, this field is oversaturated. It cannot sustain." And he was right. It collapsed shortly thereafter. Do I think horror is doing well? It certainly did benefit from the collapse, because when things collapsed, then it got rid of that 90%, right? Only the 100, or only the 10% was there to rise to the top and sustain us through. And so I think that there is a lot of really interesting and compelling horror being written today. And as Douglas Winter famously said one time, that horror is not really a genre, it's an ingredient. And you can have a story that will be marketed as horror, but for much of its length, it's not particularly horrifying. Take, for example, the film Hostel, right? For most of its length, it does not look like a horror film. It's a little creepy, but and then it goes bonkers, right? And that's what a lot of horror does. It is basically a story of people that gradually devolves into the horrifying world. The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly is much the same way, right? It goes, for about the first hour. It's an interesting story about a scientist. It could be considered science fiction. And then we come into the scene and he's walking on the ceiling, and suddenly it goes, full on body horror. So I think horror is in a very good place right now. And I think particularly in films, where I continue to be surprised. And when I watch a horror film, like, for example, last year, Barbarian.
Yes.
Which just threw me for a loop. Again, I wanted to go in knowing nothing. I went in knowing nothing, and it had just one of the most suspenseful first acts I've encountered. And then it does a 180, right? It turns into another story, but that story cycles back to the opening story. And I like that kind of experimentation. And
I'm a big fan of, like, as much as I like sort of jump scare. Like, we were watching It, the two It film, most recent It films over Halloween and stuff. And it's not really scary. No, I think I've become a bit numb to sort of stuff like that. But I really enjoy psychological horror. Ones where you have to really, really sort of kind of put a lot of thought into it, and it's sort of kind of, it's not about that. It's not about a monster. It's about sort of like something happening in the background or underneath and stuff. And one, I've mentioned it before in the podcast, but there's a film. It's a play as well. It's called Ghost Stories. It's got Martin Freeman in it, and it's got Andy Nyman, who's one of the guys who did League of Gentlemen. And it's him and Darren Brown. Sort of, I think they did a stage show and then they made it into a film, and it is so good because it's I think that the whole thing about it is the mind sees what it wants to see, and the whole thing. So it's based on three ghost stories, and this guy, he's Philip Goodman, who's played by Nyman. He's a skeptic, and he basically sort of kind of goes to interview these people who have said they've seen ghosts and stuff, and it has that sort of edge of it being this is scary, but then is it? It's sort of kind of, well, there's a little, I know, actually I can't because I'm reading, if you've not seen it, but there's bits in it where it's just like, is that something that's spectral and ghostly, or is it just in your mind? And then the whole thing, they go through these three stories, and then there's a connection at the very end, which my girlfriend at the time saw it, went, "This is bullshit," and I thought that was absolutely genius because it connects everything within the three stories together, and if you don't catch it, it's like you go back and go, "Oh my god, yes," and it knocks everything together. Like, if you just want a horror film that ends with a sort of like, this is a monster and stuff, you're not going to get it with this one because it has a very specific ending which can upset people. But I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was amazing. And that sort of thing where it's like, oh my god, I see where he's come from with that, how it connects to all the other parts. And I love horror, like the Babadook as well. If you've ever seen the Babadook, it was like Australian, the Babadook. It again, amazing. It's just sort of like the whole thing, how it's tied together at the end, and it's just like, yeah, stuff like that is that for me that's good horror.
Yeah, the ending. If the ending works, you walk away, feeling as if you've seen something really remarkable.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if the ending falls flat, then the film might have had remarkable elements in it, but you're going to come away thinking that the story was lacking. And sometimes the way a story ends doesn't you don't like it. This isn't the way you wanted it to end.
Yeah.
But as I was told once, there are the way to watch a film. This is the way it goes. You never actually see the film until the next day. You watch it, you experience it, you have to sleep on it. And then the next day, you have a sense of what it's about. And actually, a few weeks later, you have more of a sense of what it's about. And this is why I think that reviewing films has got to be the toughest job, because you've got to find a way to get yourself into that mindset right after you've seen the film and write an honest review, which is not necessarily going to be easy. When I first saw Seven, right?
Yeah.
David Fincher's Seven, I thought, oh no, I don't want it to end that way. No, this is terrible. And I just think it's a magnificent film. I mean, it is one that I really didn't like it when I first saw it. This is not working for me at all. It was wrong in so many ways. And I walked out of the theater thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to watch another David Fincher movie again. And I think it's remarkable. And it is because I have taken the time to digest the whole story and experience that surprise at the end and realize that that surprise wasn't a surprise. That was coming all along, wasn't it?
I really buy into that whole the uncomfortable truth, or where things, like, I think you go through your life and you just hope things are just going to end the way you want them to end, but that's not reality. And especially in films like that, you want that sort of kind of reality to head in, and it makes it that more poignant, more sort of effective at the end. Have you seen The Road? The book. So there's the book and then there's the film. I went to see the film of The Road, and I thought it was like one of the most harrowing but yet amazing films I've ever seen. I will never watch that film ever again, because it was so like it was so bleak, and it was so sort of kind of like traumatizing for me, and it doesn't end very well, and the whole thing's just depression the whole way through, bar when they get the sort of like the fruit in the middle. But yeah.
It's like if you ever watch any of the films by Lars von Trier's, that they are there's some messed up stuff. Especially I remember because someone recommended it to me. I bought a copy of Antichrist, and I remember the first time sitting down to watch it, I got about 25 minutes into the film, and I just thought, I don't get what is going on, because you know it's just basically two actors on the film. They're playing off each other. There's a bit of background because they've lost their child. They're trying to rebuild their lives, and they go off to this secluded area. And I'm just thinking, what's the point? What's actually going? And then there's these odd little things, like these odd little bits and pieces that happen. So there's some weird graphic imagery that just pops up. There's some odd commentary that comes from both characters, and then it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and then just all of a sudden, when you get that ending and the film just cuts to black, I just thought, I don't know what I've just watched. But that took me about a week later. I was chatting to the person who recommended the film to me, and he said the one thing he said to me was, but did you expect what was happening in the film? Did you have any idea of how it was going to conclude? I went, no, I did not. I said, I don't know. I said, I probably had an idea. He goes, but that's the problem. You are expecting a certain outcome, but don't go into the film like that. Go into the film thinking, well, I don't know what's going to go on. I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that after watching that did change my opinion on a lot of movies. It made me want to go in more as a blank slate without knowing too much, and then just to talk. It's hard though to park your mind. It's hard to just go, right, I'll take the film as it is, because in your head you're already theorizing what's
Mm.
going to happen next or how it's going to conclude, and that was just difficult. But now I find that a lot easier after watching that film, and that film fucked me up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I
Well,
had the same experience with Melancholia,
Mm.
where it begins, and I don't, where is this going? And then when it starts going, when it gets to where it's going, it's harrowing.
mm.
Good stuff. That I think that might be my favorite of his films.
Uh, it,
Such
it,
a good
what
one.
is it like? I remember going to say, obviously it's not a horror film, but it gave me that feeling. Everything, everywhere, all at once, which is an absolutely amazing film. I think it, like, I love it so
I
much.
would describe it as Matrix for the modern day.
Yeah, I just
Mhm.
when I
Yeah.
just remember at the start being in the cinema and like they're in the laundrette and there's all this random stuff and I was like, what the hell is this film? And like just being completely like in my head I was like, this is gonna be so naff. And then by the end of it, like I'm sitting there like there's rocks with googly eyes and they're talking to each other and stuff, and I'm just like going, this is the best film I've ever seen. But from the start, how I felt at the start and how I felt at the end were complete polar opposites from each other, you know. Okay. It's been an hour. We obviously don't want to keep you too long. One thing I want to ask you because it popped up earlier, and I just want to sort of kind of talk. You were talking about Hound of the Baskervilles and stuff. There's obviously been a lot of adaptations of sort of like Sherlock Holmes in media. Have you got like a favorite? Like, you know, I guess there's been
Yeah.
Elementary, there's been Holmes. There's the Resident, which has been on Netflix, which is it's not Sherlock Holmes, but it is Sherlock Holmes. Have you got like a favorite?
Well, yes, I think I do. And our favorites are often our firsts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the first experience is the one that makes the indelible impression. And when I was a kid, my dad woke me up at night, and it was about 11 o'clock, and he told me he was going to do this because Hound of the Baskervilles was going to be on television, the movie, and he loved this movie. So he wakes me up. He says, "Come on, we're going to watch this together." And we go down. He turns it on, and now wait a minute, he says after it starts, "This isn't right." It wasn't the one that he remembered with, I think, Basil Rathbone. It was the one with Peter Cushing.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Now he didn't approve of that. He was, he didn't complain through the whole movie, but he did make it known that this was not what he expected. But for me, Peter Cushing is Sherlock Holmes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so that film made an indelible impression on me, and that is my sense of what Holmes is. That's my sense of what a mystery story should do, and so there is that. I also like Murder by Decree. That's the one with George Mason.
Yes.
And and there's also another favorite that I have is the 7% Solution, not by Conan Doyle, of course, but I think very effective. And so those three, I think, and they're very different, aren't they? But those are the three. And I guess if I kept going, because I don't know if I've ever seen a Sherlock Holmes adaptation or spin-off that I haven't enjoyed. I might also throw into the mix the very first episode of the BBC's series with
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch.
yeah, but yeah, I really like that. But I was writing these Sherlock Holmes stories for a publisher called Edge Science Fiction, and they're edited by two guys, J.R. Campbell and Charles Prepelic. And I got to know these gentlemen at one of the World Fantasies, and they asked if I would write stories for them. And I was with everything circling back to what we were talking about before the mics went on. I was sitting with Simon Kurt Unsworth, the writer at the time, and so we both wrote stories for this collection and for this anthology. And we had such a blast doing it that we wrote them again. And so when I was writing those stories, I will tell you that it doesn't actually say it in the story, but the Sherlock Holmes in those stories was Peter Cushing.
I love Peter Cushing. I love watching his old videos and stuff, and how he used to wear slippers on Star when he was doing Star Wars because his boots were too painful. And he played he was a war gamer as well, which I think is even amazing because he used to play Napoleonics, which I like Napoleonics and stuff. So he used to play Napoleonics and stuff like that. And I was just like, yeah, what an OG, amazing. Peter Cushing. Okay. So before we sort of, because we're going to do a little bit of Jonjo, we do a little bit of a pub quiz at the end for like 5-10 minutes. But before we do that, you've got the Minutemen Execute and Run. That's been recently released.
Oh, say that last part again. Minutemen Execute and Run.
That was released recently.
It was released October 14th. Yes.
Yeah. And that's now out for the general public to purchase.
It sure is. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, it came out in print and ebook on the 14th, and the audiobook comes out on November 25th.
Ooh, interesting.
And so we're looking forward to that launch.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got an Audible account, so I'll stick it on the list.
Great.
Yep. And
I'm talking about Audible, by the way, Pete. Listening to the Mercy. It's called The Mercy of Gods. It's by the guys who did
Expanse.
Expanse. Yeah. Really good. Okay. So, Jonjo, over to you. You can explain to Lawrence how this works.
Okay, so what we do every podcast at the end, I have a series of rounds. They're normally of the more geeky region. So I'll give you a selection of options. You pick your option. There's 3 questions, and pretty much it's just to see who knows the most on the selected subject. I'm sure I've ripped it off of somewhere else, but yeah, it works. It works. So Lawrence, as you are our guest, you will get to pick the round first that you'd like to do, and the choices are, I do apologize, there are some holdovers from previous weeks. You have The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid, The Boys, Star Wars, Fantastic Four, or, because someone asked me to write this, Pokemon.
He's gonna go for Pokemon. I can tell. I can tell he's a Pokemon guy.
Dead giveaway. I'm so tempted to go with Last of Us, but then I didn't finish the 2nd season, so I
haven't even started the 2nd season yet, and I'm a massive fan of The Last of Us, but then I played the games, so I kind of know.
And the games are set in a city that I know very well, Pittsburgh. And I will tell you that when you play that game and when they're going through zombie infested downtown Pittsburgh, that is it. That's nice. The city. Wow. It's beautifully rendered. Wow. And I was disappointed. I'm talking my way out of the quiz. I was disappointed that the television series moved it out of Pittsburgh. I was really hoping to see all of those locations again. But I am going to have to go. I think I'm going to regret this, but I think I'm going to go with Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Here we go then. So, question number 1. Who is the only actor to star in all 9 episodes of the Skywalker saga?
All right. It was the actor. I believe it was the actor who played 3CPO. But 3CPO, I don't know his name though.
C-3PO.
C-3PO, yes.
Daniels.
I will give you that. Yes, Anthony Daniels. Yes. Yes, the only actor to appear.
Even though I didn't know the actor's name and I got the robot's name wrong.
Yeah. We'll give it to you, your guest. All right, we get you.
But then I remember an interview with Billy D. Williams. I think that is what he called C-3PO. He called him 3CPO or something like that. So if it's good enough for Billy D, it's good enough for us.
It is C-3PO, right?
Yeah,
yes,
C-3PO.
it is. Okay, question number 2. What is the home planet of the Gungans and birthplace of Padme Amidala?
That one, I don't think. Okay, well, I'm gonna just throw it out there, and all of the geeks who are listening in can say, "You idiot!"
Please don't.
Dantooine.
No. Naboo.
Naboo.
Naboo. I should have known that.
Oh.
I was Dantooine was the only one it's the one that gets destroyed in the first
Yeah,
movie.
Dantooine. No, I thought it's Alderaan gets destroyed.
Alderaan.
She
Yeah.
says Dantooine.
Oh, is that the one that gets destroyed?
No. So Alderaan's the one that gets destroyed. Dantooine is the one that Peter Cushing's obviously pushing her, and she said Dantooine, and it's just like, you're too trusting, and then they destroy Alderaan anyway.
Yeah. Well, there was a film that came out the same time that the original Star Wars, the first film, came out, and it was called Hardware Wars. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but it was called Hardware Wars, and all of the hardware in the movie was from a hardware store.
Oh, right,
so the spaceships were toasters and irons, and they're looking out at the planet when Darth Vader. And I think he's wearing some kind of welder's mask. He is pointing to this planet out the portal, and he's saying, "I'm going to destroy this planet." And the planet out there is a basketball. I guess they must sell basketballs in hardware stores. And Princess Leia, who has some kind of, I think she has some kind of Brillo pads on her ears or something. She says, "Don't destroy basketball. It's a peaceful planet." So, anyway,
Talking
don't know
about
if that's here
we've
or
got
there, but that's
Spaceballs
what I
2 coming
remember.
out soon, which will be
yeah,
that's gonna be good.
2027.
Yeah, that should be
that'll
interesting.
come
That's
around.
not soon.
Yeah. But we'll have to see if Mel Brooks survives for the release of that one, because he is he just turned 99 or
Fucking hell.
yeah.
Yeah, he's
So,
getting up there.
That's gonna be fun. Right. Lawrence, the final one. Who voiced Darth Maul in episode 1?
Ooh, what's the guy's name?
I do not know.
This might be a bit too specialist on that one, actually. I will throw it out. I'll throw it out to Matt. Go on.
It's the he's Filmowitz. He's been
the
Sam
second
Witwer.
film.
What's his?
Sam
I
Witwer.
think Pete's got the name. Go on.
Sam Witwer.
No, it's not.
No,
No,
No?
it's not.
no,
It's,
no.
He's a
voiced
comedian. He was in
Darth Maul
Space.
since.
He was in
but-
Spaced, and he was in he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. Finowitz, something.
Peter Serafinowicz.
Sarah Finowitz. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lawrence, you have 1 out of 3, and I can tell you that has been a winning score before. So there is,
I had this big thing because I'm a massive fan of Sharp. I don't know if you ever heard it before. Sort of like a Napoleonic. It's played by Sean Bean in the films, and there's a book series which I love, and I thought I'm going to own this, and I only got one right. I was absolutely mortified.
right. Pete, we'll go to you next. So, The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid, The Boys, Fantastic Four, or Pokemon?
I'm gonna go with The Boys because I've just watched Gen
I
V
don't
season
know
2,
any
and
of the others.
that was really good.
Okay. Oh, actually, that probably help you with one of the questions on this one. Okay. Question number 1. Which character in The Boys has the real name of John Gilman?
Oh. Okay. Is it Mother's Milk?
No.
Oh, go on.
No. I'll let you have another guess. Go on.
No, sorry, no. That was my guess.
So if there's a character that's known more by their hero name instead of their real name. No?
No.
Homelander.
Okay. Of course, yeah, John. Keep on going, John. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Blank for that one.
Question number 2. Hamish Linklater plays which character in Gen V season 2?
Oh, he plays Cypher.
He does. He plays Dean Cypher.
Oh, but given the reveal,
Well, no one might seen it. Maybe
By the
some
way,
people
Pete.
haven't seen it yet. So yeah, that's what we say.
he plays it. Yeah, just nothing. To worry
He
here.
plays, and he also is the he plays Batman in the animated show Cape Crusader,
Oh,
which
interesting.
is really good. Okay, Pete, for question number 3, which character played by Aya Cash was the first successful Compound V subject?
Would that be Soldier Boy?
No.
Oh.
Played by Aya Cash. Aya Cash is a female.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
I will say Soldier Boy was the second
Right, okay, that's
successful
what-
Compound V subject.
Oh God, I've forgotten her. She's
No,
got
sorry.
the shaved head. The Nazi woman. What's her name?
Oh,
What's her name?
Stormfront.
Stormfront is
Stormfront.
correct.
That's it. I get half a point for that because I helped him.
No. Right. Anyway, so Pete, 2 out of 3. Well done.
No,
right,
one and
so-
a half. One and
no,
a half. Depending
no.
on what I get.
No. So Matt, Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid. I was just about to say the boys again. Fuck it, I've only got 2 of them. Yeah, Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid, Fantastic Four, or Pokemon.
Man, I know nothing about Pokemon. I know nothing about The Last of Us, having never played the games because I'm an Xbox guy. I don't. Metal Gear Solid again wasn't a series of games I ever played, so I guess I'm going to have to go for Fantastic Four, and this is going to be a proper stretch.
Watch the film.
Yeah, I'm not. I've watched the film recently, so yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Question number 1. What is the name of the fictional country ruled by Doctor Doom?
Oh fuck.
No, that's not it.
Do you know what? It's annoying because it was.
Oh, I think Pete's going to steal your half a point back.
God. Give me 1 minute. It's on the tip of my tongue.
And the thing is, we can't see if he's going on Google or not from our camera. So.
That's right.
You'll see. I'm gonna have to pass, and it's gonna annoy
All right,
me
go
when
on,
he says
Pete.
it.
Is it Latvia?
No, not Latvia.
Latvia.
Latvia, yes.
Yeah.
Not very now. I would have got
Yeah,
it.
you know
Yeah,
that fictional country of Latvia.
yeah, that fictional country. Yeah.
Oh, we apologise for any of our
Latvian
Latvian
listeners. Sorry about
listeners.
that.
Yeah, we do apologise, and we hope Doctor Doom isn't treating you too badly. All right. So, question number 2: which actress played Sue Storm in the 2005 film and its sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer?
Oh, apples. Something. Is it? No. What's her name? Something Apple.
Apple.
Apple?
Apple. Am I thinking? Who am I thinking? She's in Sin City.
She is.
She's in Sin City. What's her name?
That's what I asked.
Oh God, I can't think of her name.
Is that going to be a pass?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Any answers? No. Jessica Alba.
Alba. Oh yeah, I don't even think where I got Apple from. It came in an A, so I was like, yeah, Apple instead of Alba. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And as you said, you have seen the recent film. Question number 3: what Earth is the setting for Fantastic Four First Steps? Is it? This is multiple choice, so you know you're not being completely left out.
Good.
Is it A 818, B 828, or C 838?
Yeah, I doesn't. None of the. This is going to be a pure guess from me.
What I'll tell you is that they do actually make a point about the Earth at the end of the film, in the dedication to Jack Kirby.
Oh God. Yeah. 828.
You are correct. 828. Because Jack Kirby was born on the 28th of August.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah.
All right. 1 point. Me and Lawrence with the 1 points. Yes.
Yeah. But then Pete did still back your half a point, so yeah, you come last.
Boo. Cool. Right. Cheers, Jonjo. There we go. One of these days.
Well, I'll have to do another sharp round at some point.
Yeah. So we regain some honor. I'm either really good at these or horrendously bad. There's no in between with me.
What I love though is when it's someone else's round and I see Pete's face goes, "Oh, I know." It's just the excitement. I love that. I love that. The giddiness is like, "I've got it. I've got it."
Well, because they're my teacher's pet.
So Lawrence, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really interesting. By all means, please come back on if you've got anything else more that's coming up, or you want to just have a chit chat. You're more than welcome. You've got The Minutemen Execute and Run, which is currently out and available soon on audiobook, and you can get it at most good bookstores online, I'm guessing.
That's right. Available everywhere books are sold. Amazon is having trouble keeping the print copies in stock, but certainly Barnes and Noble and Thrift Books and all the other suppliers have it. And I think Amazon currently does have it in stock, the print copy, but we can always get the ebook. And I'm really looking forward, along with you, Matt, I'm looking forward to that audiobook, which I have heard excerpts of it, and it's really terrific. So I think we have something to look forward to.
I'll stick it on my wish list then. Awesome. Right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for tonight. I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Ellison.
Good night, everyone.
Jonjo Cosgrove.
Take care, everybody.
And our special guest, Lawrence Connolly.
This was a blast, guys. Thanks so much for inviting me on, and hope we get together again soon, either through this medium or in person sometime when I'm in the UK. So
100%.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it was. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Cheers, Lawrence. Appreciate that. Really, really good. Really interesting.
That was a blast, guys.
Thank you very much.
We must do it again sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care and good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys.